This audio fanfic is rated K, which is the same as a movie rating of G for general audiences. This is intended for all ages. For more information on what the rating means, please go to www.esrb.com.
It was summer, and Eustace was spending a few weeks of holidays at his cousin's house before returning to university. Now, you'll remember from another story, this is the same Eustace who had been a particularly tiring young boy. I shan't go into details here, for you can read about them for yourself in another book called The Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Now I say had been tiring, because also recorded in that book, Eustace had some wonderful adventures which turned him into a very different sort of boy. Many years had passed since then, and he had become a much more agreeable and well-liked young man. The morning after his arrival at the Pevensies, he found himself outside of Edmund's room with a hand poised as if to knock. He hesitated. Then he backed away before turning to retreat down the hallway. Suddenly he stopped. Just as quickly, a determined look streaked across his face before he gulped a deep breath and started again for the door. Looking up, Edmund smiled.
Good morning, Eustace. What's up, old chap?
Edmund had been sitting at his desk, books scattered all over it, and one open in his hand, when Eustace had given a sharp rat-a-tat-tat on his door and barged in. Striding over to the desk, he rushed.
Edmund, will you promise not to tell anyone?
Whatever about? Tell anyone what?
Questioned Edmund. Eustace's pause lasted a few moments, longer than would have been politely necessary, causing Edmund to start worrying. What kind of trouble could Eustace have possibly gotten himself into already?
You know Pole?
Started Eustace a little feebly.
Jill Pole?
Well, of course I know her,
replied Edmund, swinging around in his chair, his eyes squinted in confusion.
We all know her. Peter, Lucy, even Sue's met her. You yourself made the introduction a few years back, after the two of you rescued Rillian.
He shook his head.
She's been over here plenty of times. Why would you ask something so obvious? Are you not feeling well?
No, I mean, it's just...
You weren't fighting with her again, were you?
Oh, no, nothing like that. Well, we did have a fight over how many pairs of socks would be an acceptable number for me to bring here.
Then Eustace quickly added,
But that's all made up now.
Then what's wrong? You look positively sick.
He reached out and placed his palm on Eustace's forehead.
You feel positively sick, too.
Eustace squirmed.
Yeah, not sick. Promise. I needed your opinion on someone.
He couldn't have stuttered over his words better if he had tried to. A rich blush crept upon his cheeks. He instantly bowed his head, quite obvious, and unsuccessfully attempted to hide his flaming face.
Oh, Aslan's man, so that's it? You want my suggestion?
Asked Edmund.
Go ask her.
The largest grin possible spread across Eustace's face. His eyes beamed.
Thank you, Edmund.
You're welcome, old chap,
replied Edmund, but it fell upon deaf walls. Eustace had already dashed out of the room. His pounding feet echoed on the stairwell. The front door slammed. Edmund turned and sat back at his desk. Before picking up his book once more, he smirked. Not long after that, perhaps no more than 2 or 3 hours, the doorbell rang. Lucy answered the door and was greeted by a telegram boy. Dressed in the standard blue uniform and a cap, his bicycle rested in one hand, and the other hand held a small folded yellow paper. Taking the envelope, Lucy carefully unfolded the message. As she began to read, a look of utter surprise and happiness dazzled her face. The boy reached over for a notepad and pencil in his bicycle basket.
Will there be a reply?
He asked. But she was already in the house, halfway up the stairwell.
Edmund! Oh, Edmund! Eustace is gone. He's gone back home. And guess what? He asked Jill to marry him.
Lucy yelled excitedly. Her exclamation had brought her to Edmund's door. She burst in, a bit breathless but clearly elated.
And Jill said yes!
Edmund glanced over and smiled at Lucy.
I know.
He simply stated.
How could you know?
Asked Lucy, clearly bewildered.
Trust me, I just knew.